Lysera sat in silence, staring at the floor of her late husband's chambers. The light filtering through the skylight was soft, but everything around her felt cold. Her husband, Corin, had not returned from the final border patrol. The word had come yesterday. He was gone. Fallen in the line of duty defending the outposts of the Cerelian people. But the tears she expected didn't come. Instead, the silence was broken by sharp voices. Her husband's sister, Krina, stood tall in her golden ceremonial robe, arms crossed, face tight with disapproval. "You have no claim to this estate anymore," Krina said, her voice flat. Lysera looked up slowly. "He was my husband, and now he is dead," Krina replied coldly. "And you have no children of age to carry his name forward. You were a guest in this house. Your time here is over." A guest. That's what they always called her behind her back. Lysera had come from a minor family, far beneath the Cerelian elite. They had never welcomed her. She'd thought Corin's love had shielded her. But now, with him gone, she saw how alone she truly was. "I have nowhere to go," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "That is not our concern. Take the child and leave. The servants will not stop you." Krina turned on her heel and walked away, robes flowing like a judge, walking away from a sentence already delivered. Lysera felt her knees grow weak. She fell to the floor and pressed, her hands to her face. Her son, Vael, was only 5 cycles old, too young to understand what was happening, too young to carry the shame she now bore. By sunset, she had packed what little she could, a satchel of clothes, a broken pendant Corin once gave her, a bottle of water. No farewell from the house staff, no escort, just the heavy silence of doors closing behind her. She carried Vael in her arms, the child sleepy and confused. "Where are we going, Mama?" he asked, his tiny fingers clutching her tunic. "To a safe place," she replied, though she had no idea where that was. The city of Lorthan was bright, beautiful, and cold. Its tall towers sparkled under the moons, but for the poor or cast out there was no warmth behind the lights. Lysera wandered the market district, hoping to find some friendly face, some distant contact who might remember her kindness. But as she knocked on doors, she found none. One friend pretended not to know her. Another made excuses. "I have my own family," they said. "I can't take in an outcast." Outcast. She now understood the full weight of that word. Her food ran low after 2 days. She gave the last of it to Vael, pretending she wasn't hungry. The child grew weak. His eyes dimmed. She tried to smile for him, but inside, she was breaking. That evening, the rain came. Cold and bitter. Lysera curled around her child under the arch of a closed shop. Her cloak was soaked, her fingers numb. Vael slept against her chest, unaware of the storm around them. She had failed. Her husband was gone. Her home was taken. And now her child was slipping away in her arms. Then, through the rain, footsteps approached. Lysera opened her eyes expecting a guard, maybe even someone to chase her away. But it was a human, a tall man, his skin pale from the cold, with dark hair tucked under a hood. He looked at her for a long moment, then knelt without saying a word. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice low and warm. Lysera stared at him. She had never spoken to a human before. They were rare in Lorthan, considered too odd, too simple, too fragile for Cerelian society. "No," she said. "We're not." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small energy blanket. "Take this," he said, wrapping it gently around her son. The warmth activated instantly. Lysera gasped as she felt the blanket's heat. "Why would you? You don't look like you're dangerous," he said with a gentle smile. "You look like a mother who needs help." "I don't have anything to offer you." "I didn't ask for anything," he replied. She was stunned. Kindness, after so much cruelty, felt like a dream. "My name is Daniel," he added, as if that was enough explanation for all of it. My home's not far. It's not fancy, but it's dry and warm. If you want, I can take you there. She hesitated. Trusting strangers had cost people their lives. And yet, her child's life was fading in her arms. She looked down at Vale. His lips were pale, his body trembling. Then she looked up at the human. At Daniel. There was no trick in his eyes. No pride, just quiet care. Please, she said. Daniel's home was nothing like the Cerulean estates. It was made of thick alloy walls and sealed with old Earth-style latches. No guards, no glass statues, no glowing floors. Just clean mats, warm light, and a smell of cooking roots in the air. Daniel made a small bed for Vale, wrapped him in clean towels, and gave him warm broth. Lysera stood in the corner, unsure of what to say or do. You can sit, Daniel said, motioning to a chair. I don't bite. She slowly lowered herself onto the seat. Your husband? He asked gently. Dead, she replied. Daniel nodded. I'm sorry. She looked at him. You don't even know us. Why would you help? Daniel leaned back. Because someone helped me once. When I first came here, I had nothing, couldn't understand half the signs. A vendor gave me food and didn't ask for payment. He just said, don't let the world change who you are. I guess I'm just passing it on. She stared at the floor. Her hands trembled. I've never seen anyone like you. That's probably a compliment, he said with a soft laugh. To her surprise, she smiled. That night, she stayed awake while her son slept peacefully for the first time in days. She watched Daniel fix a broken lamp. His movements were quiet, focused, and patient. She wondered what kind of person chose to live alone in a strange city, offering help to outcasts like her without expecting anything in return. A part of her still didn't understand him. But another part, the part that had almost given up, began to hope again. For the first time since Corin's death, Lysera whispered a silent thank you into the night. Not to her family, not to the cold stars above, but to a human named Daniel, who saw a mother, not a burden, and gave her and her child a place to breathe. Morning came slowly. Soft light slipped through the small round window of Daniel's home. Lysera sat beside her son, watching him sleep. His cheeks looked warmer now. He wasn't shivering anymore. She brushed his hair back gently and sighed, in relief. She had spent the night half awake, unsure if what happened was real. A human had given them shelter. A stranger had shown kindness when her own people had turned away. She stood up quietly and walked toward the small kitchen where Daniel was making something warm. He glanced over his shoulder. Good morning. Lysera nodded. Good morning. Daniel stirred a pot on a heating coil. It's not fancy, just root stew and some flatbread. Hope you and the little one like it. Lysera hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Ceruleans did not eat with humans. In her society, this would be considered strange, maybe even shameful. But now none of that mattered. You saved us, she said quietly. Daniel shook his head. No. I just opened the door. You walked through it. She looked at him for a moment, trying to read his face. There was no pride in his voice, no arrogance in his tone. Just plain truth. He handed her a small bowl of stew. It smelled strange, earthy, strong, but her stomach growled before she could say anything. Thank you, she whispered. Vale woke up slowly, his eyes blinking in the morning light. Mama, I'm warm, he murmured, sitting up. Lysera smiled, tears in her eyes. Yes, my little one, we're safe. Daniel brought him a smaller bowl, crouching down to his level. You must be hungry, huh? Vale looked up, a little shy. Who are you? I'm Daniel, the human said kindly. I fix things and burn stew. Vale giggled and Lysera covered her mouth, surprised to hear that sound again. It had been too long since her son laughed. Later that day, Lysera stepped outside the home. The world looked different now, the same streets, same sky, but she was seeing them from a place of shelter, not fear. Daniel had built his home on the edge of the district. Not many neighbors, just a few scattered homes and mechanical shops. The area looked simple, rough even, but it was clean and honest. Not like the towering estates of the Cerealian elite where everything was polished but cold. Daniel joined her outside. He wiped his hands with a cloth, grease on his sleeves. Looks like it'll be clear today. Good time to stretch out if you need it. Lysera nodded. You built all this yourself? Most of it, Daniel said. The structure was here when I arrived, but it was a wreck. Took a while to patch it up. It's not perfect, but it doesn't leak anymore. You live alone? Yeah, he said with a shrug. Some people don't like humans around, so I keep to myself. Lysera lowered her gaze. My people? They believe humans are unfit for high society. I've heard that, Daniel replied, his tone light. Luckily, I'm not trying to be part of high society. I just want to help where I can and stay out of trouble. She looked at him again. He didn't seem bothered by the insult. He accepted the world as it was, but still chose to be good. How did you end up here? She asked. Daniel smiled. I came with a human settlement ship, hoping to help rebuild damaged colonies. After the war, many places were in ruins. I stayed behind after my contract ended. Something about this place, it felt like it needed someone. Lysera looked away. You stayed where you were unwanted. Maybe, Daniel said. But sometimes unwanted places need people the most. The days passed. Daniel didn't ask Lysera to leave. In fact, he began including her in small tasks. Nothing too heavy, just simple things. Gathering fuel cells, checking water filters, sorting tools. Lysera had never done physical labor before. In the estates, she had servants. Everything was managed. But here, there were no servants. And strangely, she didn't miss them. When she helped Daniel repair an old water pipe, he smiled and said, You've got steady hands. Her heart fluttered in her chest. It wasn't praise like the nobles gave. It was real. She began to feel useful again. Not as a widow, not as an exile, but as a person. Vale, meanwhile, followed Daniel everywhere. The boy clung to his side, watching him fix things, asking questions, giggling when something sparked or buzzed. Daniel taught him how to hold a wrench, how to tap a pipe gently to hear if it was blocked. Lysera watched from the window as her son laughed. The boy who had been silent and frightened now chased butterflies around the yard. He called Daniel Uncle Dan, and Daniel didn't correct him. Something warm bloomed in her chest. One evening, while Vale slept, Lysera sat outside under the stars. Daniel joined her with 2 mugs of warm drink. I want to thank you again, she said. You've thanked me every day this week, he said with a smile, because I still don't understand why you did it. Daniel looked at the stars above. I've seen too many people look the other way, pretend not to notice someone in need. I promised myself I wouldn't be one of them. Lysera looked at him, then asked softly, But why me? Daniel turned to face her. Because you were in pain, and your child was suffering, and I had room. His words were simple, but they held weight. She lowered her eyes. I was thrown away like trash. Daniel shook his head. Then they didn't know what they lost. Lysera's breath caught. She had heard many things in her life, praise wrapped in lies, titles offered with fake smiles. But Daniel's words felt like truth. She blinked back tears and whispered, You're not like anyone I've ever met. Daniel chuckled. I've heard that before. They sat in silence for a while, the stars above them, the quiet night around them. The next day, Lysera decided to help more. She swept the floor, cleaned the tools, organized the supply shelf. Daniel didn't stop her. He just smiled and gave her space to do what she wanted. That afternoon, an older alien from the neighborhood stopped by. He was tall with a ridge down his forehead, and he looked at Lysera with wide eyes. Lady Lysera? He asked in shock. Lysera stood frozen. You're here? With a human? Daniel stepped forward calmly. Can I help you? The alien looked between them. You were the wife of Corin of House Drellick. Now you live with this outsider? Lysera straightened her back. Her voice was firm. He gave me a roof when my own family gave me the street. The alien blinked in surprise, then turned and left, shaking his head. Daniel watched him go. That might bring some talk. I don't care, Lysera said, and she meant it. That evening, Daniel showed her how to repair a power relay. Lysera listened carefully, asking questions, adjusting the circuits with delicate hands. Daniel smiled as she worked. You've got a mind for this, he said. Faster than I was when I started. She looked up. I like fixing things. Me too, Daniel replied. Their eyes met for a moment. Quiet, calm, unspoken understanding. She smiled. For the first time in cycles, she wasn't remembering the past. She was looking forward. That night, as she tucked Vale into bed, he looked up at her sleepily. Mama, are we going to stay here forever? She stroked his hair. Do you want to? He nodded. Uncle Dan is nice, and you smile more now. She held him close. Then yes, we'll stay. Outside the door, Daniel paused, hearing the soft conversation. He smiled to himself and walked away, letting the quiet moment stay undisturbed. Lysera found herself waking up before sunrise, not from fear or hunger like before, but from purpose. There was always something to do at Daniel's home, something to fix, something to clean, something to learn. She no longer saw herself as a burden. Slowly, without realizing it, she had become part of Daniel's life, like a missing piece that finally found where it belonged. One morning, Daniel was working under a broken land hauler, its heavy body propped up on stabilizers. Lysera stood nearby, holding tools as he called out each part by name. Wrench, he said. She passed it without hesitation. Coolant tester. She handed him the device, already turned on. Daniel slid out from under the machine and looked up at her, sweat on his forehead. You're getting fast. She gave a small smile. You're getting predictable. Daniel laughed, wiping his hands. I'll take that as a compliment. Vale sat nearby, scribbling drawings of ships and stars. He glanced up. Mama, look, I drew you fixing stuff. Lysera walked over to him, kneeling. The drawing was messy but clear. There she was, with a wrench in one hand and Daniel standing beside her, both smiling. She hugged her son, heart full. It's beautiful. Vale grinned. When I grow up, I'll fix ships too. Daniel leaned over. We'll build you your own toolbox then. Later that day, Lysera joined Daniel in the main room. He was adjusting a cracked display monitor. Can I ask something? She said softly. Daniel looked up. Sure. Why didn't you take us to the officials? There are shelters, programs for the poor. Daniel paused. Because I've been to those places, and I've seen how people are treated in them. They don't see individuals, just numbers. You and your boy deserved better than that. Lysera lowered her eyes. I thought humans were supposed to be cold, selfish. Daniel shrugged. Some are, so are some Cerelians. But I was raised to believe you judge a person by their actions, not their species. She looked at him, thoughtful. You were alone here for a long time, weren't you? Yeah, he said quietly. But I'm not alone anymore. That evening, they sat on the porch steps. The sun dipped behind the hills, turning the sky purple and orange. Vale chased little insects, his laughter echoing into the air. Lysera wrapped her shawl tighter and looked at Daniel. You gave us something we didn't think we'd ever have again. What's that? A place that feels like home. Daniel smiled. It's your home now, too. She looked down, her voice softer. It's strange. How fast things changed. One moment I was nothing, and now I'm someone again. You were always someone, Daniel said. They just couldn't see it. As days passed, word began to spread in the nearby neighborhoods. Did you hear? The widow of House Drellick lives with a human. She works like a laborer now. Can you believe it? Her child calls him uncle like they're family. Lizera noticed the looks whenever she went into the small local market, but the whispers didn't sting like before. Something had changed inside her. She stood taller, looked people in the eye. When one former acquaintance stopped her and tried to offer pity, she smiled calmly and said, "I don't need sympathy. I found peace." The alien woman stared at her in shock, unable to reply. Back at home, Lysera began a new project, a garden. Daniel helped her clear a patch of land beside the house. It was dry and rocky at first, but they worked together, turning the soil and mixing in nutrients from old supply packs. She planted native herbs and small earth vegetables. Every morning she would water them, whispering softly to the young shoots. Vale helped too, placing small stones to keep animals away. Daniel watched from the doorway. "You've got a good touch." "It feels like healing," Lysera said. "For the soil, and for me." Then one day, something unexpected happened. A transport ship landed near the district, a rare visit from the central city. From it stepped several officials in gray robes, and among them stood Krina, Lysera's sister-in-law. Lysera was in the garden when they approached. Krina's eyes widened at the sight of her. "You are here?" Lysera stood slowly, dirt on her hands. She didn't flinch. Krina looked uncomfortable. "I didn't believe the reports, that you'd live with a human like this." Daniel stepped out of the house. "Is there a problem?" Krina gave him a brief, dismissive glance. "We're not here for you." Daniel crossed his arms but said nothing. Lysera wiped her hands. "Why are you here, Krina?" Krina hesitated, then took a step closer. "There's been a change in House Drellick. The council removed me from leadership. They now question how you were treated. Some believe you should be welcomed back." Lysera raised an eyebrow. "Welcomed back?" Krina nodded. "Your child still carries Corin's blood. The house needs heirs. The council offers you a home servant's education for the boy, but only if you return alone." Silence fell. Lysera didn't even look surprised. "And Daniel?" Krina's lips tightened. "The human stays here. You can't be seen with him. Not if you want the house's protection again." Lysera looked at Daniel. He stood quietly, no emotion on his face. Then she looked at her son, who was peeking from the doorway, holding the drawing he had made. She turned back to Krina. Her voice was calm, steady. "No." Krina blinked. "What?" "I said no," Lysera repeated. "You threw us out like garbage. Daniel picked us up and gave us life again. I will not leave him. Not for a title, not for a house, not for a name." Krina's face turned cold. "You would choose a human over your own kind?" "I'm choosing the one who showed me kindness when no one else did," she replied. Krina turned sharply and walked away, her officials following. No apology, no goodbye. But Lysera didn't need either. Later that night, Daniel sat on the porch alone, looking at the stars. Lysera joined him. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes, I did. They would have given you a mansion, power. Your son would have had everything." Lysera shook her head. "He already has everything. A mother who is whole, a man who protects him, a place where he can laugh without fear." Daniel looked at her. "You're not afraid of what people will say?" "I was," she said, "but not anymore." She paused, then added softly, "You gave us a new life. I choose that. I choose you." Daniel didn't reply, but his eyes said enough, and under the night sky, two souls, once broken by different worlds, sat together in quiet peace. The days after Krina's visit passed quietly, but something had changed. Lysera noticed how some neighbors avoided her now. Others watched from windows, whispering as she walked by. Some were curious, others disapproving. Daniel didn't seem bothered, but Lysera could feel it. The stares, the judgment, and yet none of it broke her spirit. Each morning she stood by Daniel as they worked together. The garden bloomed under her care. The repairs they made around the house became smoother, faster. Even the tools seemed to respond better in her hands now. More than once, Daniel said with a grin, "I think you're the boss now," and she would smile back. "Then hurry up, worker." Vale laughed every time. For the first time in cycles, it felt like a real home. A simple life, but a full one, until the patrol came. It was late afternoon when the sleek silver transport landed near their home. The engines blew dust across the garden, sending small plants shaking in the breeze. Daniel and Lysera stepped outside quickly, Vale standing behind her, holding her leg tightly. 6 armored guards stepped out first. Behind them walked 2 council members from the Central District, elders of House Drellick. Their robes shimmered with wealth and authority, and beside them once again was Krina. But this time she looked less confident. Her posture was stiff. Her eyes did not meet Lysera's. One of the elders spoke. "Lady Lysera, by the voice of House Drellick, we ask for an audience." Lysera nodded slowly. "Speak." The elder cleared his throat. "The house finds itself in great uncertainty. The alliances that once protected us are now fragile. We require unity, especially from those of noble blood." "I am no longer part of your house," she replied calmly. "You are still the widow of Corin," the second elder said. "Your child carries his name. This gives you standing." Daniel stepped closer. "You didn't think so before." One of the guards glanced at him, hand near his weapon, but Lysera raised a hand. "I'll listen," she said. The elder continued. "We want you and the child to return. There is conflict brewing, rumors of war. The house needs heirs, symbols of stability. You would be granted a title, property. Your son will receive full honors." Lysera crossed her arms. "You said this before. I already gave you my answer." The elder glanced at Krina, then added, "This time the offer comes with conditions. You must leave this place. Leave the human, completely. The house cannot risk dishonor. The council demands it." Daniel didn't speak. He looked down at the ground, jaw tight. Lysera felt her heart pound. She looked at the faces before her, all dressed in luxury, all standing straight and proud. But they hadn't lifted a finger when she begged for help. They hadn't brought water when her child was starving. They hadn't opened a door when she slept on stone. Daniel had. She turned toward him. His hands were clenched. He was calm on the outside, but she could see the hurt, the fear of being left behind. She stepped closer to him, then turned back to the elders. "No." One word. Clear. Sharp. The elders blinked. Krina looked up, shocked. Lysera stepped forward. "When I had nothing, he gave me safety. When I had no food, he fed my son. When I was treated like dirt by my own blood, he treated me like family." The guards tensed. Lysera raised her voice. "I will not leave the one who gave me back my dignity. I will not bow to a house that only remembers I exist when it suits them." "You're choosing a human over your own kind?" the elder snapped. "No," Lysera said, voice steady. "I'm choosing loyalty, something you've forgotten." The elder's tone turned cold. "Then you are no longer under the protection of the house. If war comes, you will stand alone." "I'd rather stand alone with honor," she replied. "Then stand beside traitors who abandoned me." The council turned sharply and left without another word. But as the transport lifted off, Daniel spoke quietly beside her. "You didn't have to do that for me." She turned toward him, eyes soft. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for us." That night the wind howled stronger than usual. Lysera sat by the window, staring at the stars. Daniel brought her a cup of warm tea and sat beside her. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm not afraid of them. I just wonder what comes next." Daniel sipped from his cup. "We keep living, keep building." Lysera looked at him. "They said war is coming." "It always is," he said with a shrug. "But we're ready, we've survived worse." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I'm glad I met you," Daniel smiled. I'm glad I opened that door. A few days later, something happened that shook the district. A small riot broke out near the central marketplace. Some aliens protested the growing influence of humans. Others demanded Cerelians who lived with outsiders be punished. Lysera and Daniel stayed home, but the tension reached their doorstep. One afternoon, a group of masked strangers appeared near the edge of their property. Lysera saw them from the window, 4 figures watching the house. Daniel went outside, calm but alert. "Can I help you?" he asked. One of them stepped forward. "You're the human who lives with the widow." Daniel didn't flinch. "That's right. You dishonor her blood. She made her choice. And now she pays the price," the stranger growled. The group stepped forward but stopped. Lysera had walked out behind Daniel, holding a tool in one hand, her eyes blazing. "This is my home," she said coldly. "If you don't leave now, you won't walk away." The strangers looked at her, surprised by her tone, then at Daniel, and then they turned and disappeared into the shadows. That night, Lysera stood beside Daniel on the porch. "I never imagined I'd threaten people like that," she said. He smiled. "You were fierce," she shook her head. "I'm just tired of being afraid." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be anymore. We protect each other." She looked into his eyes. "Always?" "Always," he said, and the word settled deep in her heart. The next morning, something beautiful happened. Vale ran into the garden shouting, "Mama, Mama, look!" Lysera rushed out, worried, but stopped when she saw what he was pointing to. The garden. Tiny green sprouts had broken through the soil. Dozens of them. Her herbs, her vegetables, alive, thriving. Daniel came out behind her and chuckled. "Told you your hands were magic." She knelt, gently touching the fresh shoots. "It's the first thing I planted with my own hands." Daniel crouched beside her. "It's a sign. Life keeps growing, even when the world tries to crush it." She nodded, "Just like us." And as the sun rose higher, warming the earth, Lysera understood something. Her family didn't define her. Her past didn't control her, and the future didn't scare her anymore. Because she had built something stronger than a name. She had built a home with her own hands, her own heart, and with a human who never let her fall. The sun was bright the next morning, spilling golden light across the soft green garden. Birds flew above, chirping gently. The wind carried the scent of earth and blooming herbs. It was peaceful. It was alive. Lysera stood in the middle of the garden, watering her plants with slow, careful hands. Each leaf, each flower felt like a gift. Not from the house she had once served, not from the past she had escaped, but from this new life she had chosen with her own strength. Vale played nearby, chasing insects with a small net Daniel had built for him. His laughter filled the air. It was full and happy. Daniel sat on the porch step, repairing a broken solar lamp. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, his hands stained with oil and dirt. But there was a calm on his face, a peace he hadn't felt in a long time. This was their world now, a world they had built together. Later that afternoon, Lysera walked into the main room carrying 2 mugs of warm root tea. Daniel looked up and smiled. "Smells good," he said, wiping his hands on a cloth. "It's strong," she replied. "Like you like it." He took a sip and nodded. "Perfect." They sat in silence for a moment, the soft ticking of the old wall clock filling the room. Lysera looked around at the home. The worn furniture, the old floor, the faded painting Vale had made. Every part of it was touched by them, through effort, through care. "You know," she said softly, "this place, it saved me." Daniel turned his head. "No? You saved yourself," she smiled. "Maybe. But I wouldn't have made it without you." He didn't argue. He just reached out and placed his hand on top of hers. She didn't pull away. As night fell, Vale curled up in bed, hugging a small pillow made from old fabric scraps. Lysera tucked him in, brushing his hair back gently. "Do we have to leave again, Mama?" he asked sleepily. She shook her head. "No, my little star. This is our home now. Even if the bad people come again," she kissed his forehead, "then we'll stand together, no matter what." The boy smiled, eyes slowly closing. "Uncle Dan is strong." Lysera smiled. "Yes, he is." She turned off the light and stepped out, quietly closing the door. That night she stood by the window, watching the stars. The moons hung low in the sky. Somewhere beyond those lights was the old world she had once been part of. The world of judgment, of rules, of cold expectations. She no longer missed it. Daniel joined her at the window. "Couldn't sleep?" "Was thinking," she said. "About?" She paused, then looked at him. "About how far I've come." He nodded. "You've changed." "I had to," she said. "I had to become the person I needed to be. For Vale. For myself." Daniel leaned against the window frame. "You're strong now, and brave." She smiled. "You helped me believe I could be." They looked out at the stars for a while, their shoulders close. Then Lysera said softly, "You know, you never asked for anything in return." Daniel glanced at her. "I never wanted anything." "But if you could ask now," she said, turning to face him, "what would you ask for?" He paused, thought, then said, "That you stay." Lysera looked into his eyes. "I was never planning to leave, and in that moment nothing else needed to be said." Weeks passed. The garden grew taller. Vale started building small tools with Daniel. Lysera learned how to fix the power regulators by herself. The house, once quiet and lonely, was now full of life. More surprisingly, some of the neighbors who once stared began changing too. An old vendor brought seeds from the city market. A young alien couple asked if Daniel could help repair their roof. Even a few Cerealian women, once cold and silent, began greeting Lysera with shy smiles. Bit by bit, the world around them began to open. Not because it was forced, but because people saw something real. A human and a Cerealian woman. A mother and a child. A home that was built not by tradition, but by choice. One afternoon, as Daniel and Vale worked on a broken heating panel, a courier arrived. He handed Lysera a sealed letter. It was from House Drellick. She opened it slowly, reading the elegant script. The words were official. "By council vote, Lady Lysera is hereby recognized as independent and self-governing. She holds no debt to the house and is free to declare her own standing. No further claims will be made on her or her son." At the bottom, signed by Krina herself, "You have chosen your path. May it bring you peace." Lysera folded the letter and walked out to the garden. Daniel looked up. "Everything all right?" She nodded. "We're free." Daniel didn't ask what she meant. He just smiled. That evening, as they sat outside, watching Vale run through the yard chasing fireflies, Lysera turned to Daniel. "Do you ever regret staying here?" she asked. He shook his head. "No. This place gave me a purpose, gave me a family." She looked at him, eyes soft. "So did you." He reached out, gently taking her hand. We gave each other a second chance. And in that moment, under the stars, their journey came full circle. Not as strangers, not as outcasts, but as a family, built from kindness, made strong by loyalty, and rooted in a home that no one could take away.